So, Koreans don't like Africans. Is this a true statement or a false one? True or false?
Over time, I have had an interest of understanding how Koreans react to black Africans or black race. And today I've come across commentaries from Koreans themselves and even black people on how they treat the black race and how racism is embedded in Korea. One thing I've noted is that even the government sees African countries as noteworthy engaging with, and they rarely enter into deals with them. So I want you to watch this video and see what you can say about it, and we will talk about it in the end.
Thank you, Miss Page, for commenting this. To be honest with you, at the individual level, Koreans don't hate Africans. That is not the real issue here. The real problem is that at the governmental level, South Korean government is not very friendly to African countries when it comes to issuing visas. That is the real challenge here. For example, there is no single country in Africa that signed the MOU on the KEPS, meaning that none of the citizens in Africa is eligible to work in the field of non-skilled professions in South Korea when there are so many of you guys willing to work in such fields. Also, except for a very few nations in Africa, most citizens in Africa would need C3 visa to South Korea just for traveling. You guys will have to prove to the South Korean government that you have certain amount of balance in your bank account, along with the requirement that you guys have to submit your criminal record check just to be eligible to travel to Korea. Also, when there are quite a few countries in Africa where the English is the official language, the citizens of South Africa is the only people that can teach English here in South Korea, which is discriminatory, right? Discriminative against you guys that speak English as your official language. Lastly, Koreans tend to, subtly despise those people from those countries where the GDP per capita is relatively low. Koreans don't say it out loud on the surface, but I cannot deny that there is tendency for South Koreans to, have a little bit of contempt for those people with low GDP per capita. And there are many more issues other than these factors that I've just mentioned. But hopefully this is informative to you guys. So how to move to South Korea? The best bet is to start schooling first. I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, so hopefully you can go check out the video. Anyways, thank you for listening. I'll come back to you guys with more of the relationship with the South Korean government and the African countries. Have a great day.
Guys, Africa is fighting again because I said that Nigeria is my favorite country in Africa. And under that video in the comment section, each comment has like hundreds of responses of Africans going at it with each other. And let me tell you something about Africans. They do not mince their words. I know a lot of you think that I'm just a dumb influencer, which I am, but I learn. And I learned from the last time that I tried to defend Nigeria from all of Africa for releasing their beautiful Korean-inspired movie, My Sunshine, which is available on YouTube for free to stream for yourself. And when I tried to intervene, all of Africa, including the Nigerians, came after me. They were like, Chris, you stay out of it. This is a family matter. And I was like, oh, okay. But I do have to say, like, as someone who is not all that sensitive, the words that you share do cut a little deep for me. You know, the words you share are quite sharp. If Americans talk to each other like that, they would cry themselves to sleep and take a mental health break. I do think all the other continents can learn something from Africa. Despite all their squabbles among themselves, they still come together to defend each other. And I wish we could see more of that in other continents. Look at Europe. The more I learn about Europe, the more shocked I am that you guys even managed to form the European Union in the first place, because I don't even know if you guys like each other. And actually, given that one of you left, maybe you don't. And I have long given up on my dreams of seeing the 3 East Asian countries, Japan, China, and Korea, get along with each other, because that will never happen. That will never happen in our lifetime. Go after China, and Japan and Korea will be the first to step in. You go after Korea, then China and Japan will be the first to step in. And you go after Japan, and China and Korea will be the first to step in. And that one, we can understand, right? You understand, right? Japan? わかってるよね? What I have come to realize is that this triangle of hate that exists between these 3 countries is actually what brings unity to these 3 countries. Because while we hate each other, we also love each other for hating each other. So in order to maintain peace among these 3 countries, we must continue this ongoing hate. Korea, kimchi, is Chinese. China, it's Lunar New Year, not Chinese New Year. Japan? That's all.
So Koreans are actually one of the most racist people on this planet, especially towards other Asian countries like Japan, China, Philippines. I mean, we have a derogatory term for every single Asian race out there. It's actually crazy. And I look like a Southeast Asian, right? So whenever I go back to Korea and I hear these derogatory terms, I'm just like, what the actual fuck? But on the flip side, Koreans also idealize white people like crazy amounts. And there's literally a saying in Korean called 백마탄다, which refers to riding a white horse, which is a euphemism for sleeping with a white person, right? And to be honest, Korea's never really been that multicultural of a country, right? So like fair. However, because of like media and Western influences, like every Korean just wants to become pale and white. To be honest, like if you want to look pale, if you want to look white, I mean, it's completely up to you, right? So I'm not going to judge you for that. It's your choice. But like, at least don't be racist to people that don't look white, right? The other thing is like, Korea is such a looks-oriented society, right? I mean, you'll notice this if you live in Korea versus in the West. When you meet a Korean, like within the first couple of seconds, they'll literally comment something about how you look. For example, I have quite a big eye for an Asian, so they'll say, oh, you've got a big eye, for instance. Whilst in the West, I don't think I've ever had a situation like that. Okay, like people usually mean it as a compliment and like, fine, thank you. But at the same time, it just shows that the whole society is very much hinged on looks itself, versus in the West, you know, other values might be more important. That being said, I think like, especially with younger generation these days, like with looks maxing and all that shit coming up, generally like society has trended more towards like, you know, favoring people that are better looking, for instance, that fit more towards a certain standard of things, which I think it sucks generally, but in Korea it's like 100 times more intensity. And I really feel this when I, for example, go to a restaurant or go anywhere with my really good looking friend. I can just tell that the service is just different. It's like it's a new experience basically.
Okay, let's talk about this topic when I'm walking to school. I'm kind of late, so I'm walking a little fast, but not really fast. Is racism a thing in Korea? It might be noisy because there are cars passing by, Is racism a thing in Korea? I think yes. Like, racism is everywhere in the world. Racism is everywhere in the world. Korea is not a different place. But from my point of view, the racism in Korea is pretty different because, like, they will never make it obvious that they're being racist to you. You will just notice on the way they act. They just act differently based on your skin color, you know? So they will always put themselves first. They will always put Koreans first, but they're so obsessed with looks, and also they're so obsessed with white skin. So like they're most likely to like treat white people better. So if you're not white and you want to come to Korea, you need to brace yourself because you're going to face a lot of like tiny microaggressions because you're black, you know? But like they will not make it obvious or like act weird or like do anything harmful to you because this is their society and they're kind of respectful. But also there's another part that is ignorance. So many people are ignorant about like black culture and what we find offensive or not. So like the people like the Ajuma and the Ajoshis, they can touch your hair, like these things like that, but not on a bad way, just because of curiosity. They're really curious, and like the way they express their curiosity is kind of weird because they don't give you personal space or things like that. But like, I mean, that one is okay as long as nobody is hurting me. I think it's fine. But you know, for somebody who lived in Africa her whole life and never experienced racism, it was kind of shocking for me to notice how people can treat me differently based on my skin color and also based on my country. Because if you're not white in Korea and you're at least from a developed country like America or like those well-known countries, they would treat you better. But like, just imagine you're black, you're from Africa, and like you're just an African girl in Korea. That is kind of, you know, hard. But I prepared myself psychologically before coming here. So most of the time, I just don't care about what they're doing or how they're acting because I don't care. Like, I'm here for specific reasons and I don't really care about what people think. But at the same time, they're amazing people, really understanding, and people who are educated. So it kind of balances everything out. So yeah, racism is everywhere and Korea is not different.
So Africa is facing bombardment from different corners, be it America, be it Europe, be it Asia, and now Korea as an Asian country comes in again as a country that wants to demean blacks and Africa at large. They see black people as not worthy engaging, and even in their institutions they skew their activities in favor of the Koreans and not blacks. So this shows you how vulnerable black people are and how blacks should form a formidable unity to fight such forces that for the longest time have been holding them back. Because in Africa, we have created a free and equitable way of engaging with the white people and even the Asians and any other race. But yet, to them, this is not a practice that they take or they consider. They do not practice free and equity that God desires and even people should work with, because we are all equal in the eyes of the Lord. Everyone has a stake in this world, be it a white person, be it a black person. We have to tell each other that we are one race, one human race, created in the image and likeness of God. There's no lesser being. And that is the conversation we have to say or keep going with, because Koreans have to know that we are also humans. We are not here to be seen as lesser beings. So I know they will comment to this, but if you're watching us for the first time, I urge you to make a subscription, because we are holding this on by its horns. The issue of racism, we are holding by its horns. It has to end, and it has to end because we have to create an equal society, an equal human society. Thank you, and if you're watching us for the first time, kindly make a subscription to this channel. Also, do not forget to comment, share, and like. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you.